Okay guys, so I'm going to show you how to make some of these kind of fun caricature, cartoon style mood portraits. And it's called a folded paper mood portrait because the mood is revealed through this folded paper. So I have a couple examples I'm going to show you, and then I'm going to show you how you can make your own. It shouldn't take too long, but this can easily become a much longer project, or if you're really invested, I mean, you could really spend an entire day working on one of these. So you can see this one, I have lovely Albert Einstein. So when you look at the front, it just looks like him, kind of like a cartoon version of him. But if you open it, it reveals two different moods. So I drew on the top kind of like a silly version of him sticking his tongue out, and on the bottom kind of like him thinking of his one, big contribution to mathematics with his E equals MC squared. So when you close it up, right, it's just his regular face, and then you open it up and it's two different moods. So here I drew two different moods, one for the top and one for the bottom. You can do it this way, or you can just do one gigantic one. And I'll show you what that looks like. So here I have Martin Luther King. Again, very stoic, kind of nice little cartoon version of him. And when you open his up, it has his iconic "I have a dream" line, as though it's kind of like a thought bubble in between his head. So it's what he's thinking of. So rather than doing two images, I just do this gigantic one. I put a lot more focus on the font. So again, closed, it looks like that. Opened up, looks like this. Okay, so to get started, all you're going to need right now to get started is you want a thin piece of drawing paper. I'm actually using computer paper because it's really nice and you can somewhat see through it. And I'll explain why you want to see through it, because we're going to use your laptop as a light box. If you don't know what a light box is, just think of it as a device that allows for tracing. So if your sketchbook paper is pretty thin, you could use that. You don't use tracing paper because you don't want it to be completely see-through, but some form of thin paper. You're going to need that, and right now all you're going to need is also a pencil. You can actually also use a mechanical pencil, that would totally work, but whichever pencil you're going to use, make sure it is sharpened. Okay, so a sharpened pencil and a piece of paper. That's all you need for right now. So we're going to take our paper and we're going to face it vertically. First thing we're going to do is take it and fold it in half. So a nice even crease. And you really do want to make sure it's that's not like origami, but it's a little bit like that, where you want everything to be really nicely lined up. Okay, so before you flatten this crease, make sure everything is really nice and lined up. Then we're going to open it up, okay? And you're going to take the bottom piece of the paper and you're going to fold that in to the middle. And so see how I lined it up first? So you line up first all the way across, and then you press the paper down. Okay, so then you have these two pieces. Now for the top part, so you can leave this folded just like this. For the top part, what I want you to do is you're actually going to take this paper, fold it all the way over, like that, okay? And now you're going to take this bottom piece right here, and you're going to fold it up to that crease. Okay, so then now, if you were to open it all the way, you can see how this flap wants to open in. We're going to let it be open actually, but then we're going to take this top part, you can see it kind of stands up that we just folded, and we're going to fold that down. So then now, we have our surface to create that main drawing. And then when we open it, right here is where we're going to have that mood image. Okay? If you're going to get confused with which part is what I recommend before we get started, to make sure you know where the front is, draw a little star or like some kind of symbol on the top corner of this one and the top corner of this one. That way you know that these two are going to be your top images. And that way on the inside, you know that these two that have no markings, that's where the mood part's going to be. Okay, so go ahead and make this part, and then the next thing I'm going to show you is how you are going to get your image on here. And you're actually going to get an image of your face traced right on here. Okay, so now that we have our folded piece of paper, we want to get a photograph that we can use to trace on here. You can absolutely freehand this, but since we're going to make it cartoony anyway, it's nice if you start off as something that looks a little bit more realistic. And since this is a beginning level drawing, it's okay if we do a little bit of tracing to help us out. So what you want to do is either take a photograph, or if you can find one, I'm using my school photo, that looks pretty kind of like basic, like you're not, you know, overly like laughing or being goofy, just something that's kind of just still, because you want all the expression to come from the inside of that folded paper when you open it up. So you can see I have a picture on here. Now this is pretty small, right, in comparison to my big piece of paper. So make sure however you open on your laptop, you zoom in enough. You don't want it to be bigger than your paper, but enough so it kind of takes up at least this middle section. So that zoom in looks pretty good to me, actually. That's because see, my picture is not the best because I downloaded it from online. So hopefully you have a better quality picture, but mine, I'm gonna go a little bit smaller, keep it like that. And the reason I said this is kind of like a light box. A light box typically sits on a table and there's light that comes through it, and then you put a piece of paper on there and you can trace. That's what a lot of graphic artists use, that's what a lot of calligraphers use, but we're gonna use your laptop to do that, because your laptop has light coming through, so you can use it to trace. Now you can see my paper when it's folded. If I place it on my laptop right now, it is really hard for me to be able to see. I can trace down here, but I can't see anything up here. So what you're gonna do is you want to open this up all the way while you're tracing. At least for the bottom one, you don't really need to actually. So we're gonna leave it closed. Now you can hold this on your laptop while you're tracing, or you can take a small little piece of tape and tape it to your laptop. Just make sure it's really small and you're being really careful, because again, this is your laptop, you don't want to damage anything. But you want to position this paper so this middle line is somewhere in the middle of your face, like around your nose region. So I'm going to place it right there, and I'm just going to put a little small piece of tape right here. Okay, and now I'm going to take my pencil and I'm going to just trace the basic shapes that I see of my face. And you want to go pretty light. And it's okay if it's not absolutely perfect. You're just kind of getting a general idea. And I'll do my hair as well over here. And this is where a mechanical pencil actually could come in handy, because it has a sharper point. Cheek line. And if you're really struggling to see, another thing you could do is turn your lights off in your room, and that way you'll really be able to see through the laptop. Okay, now I need to do the top part. To make sure I know where to connect, I'm just gonna extend these lines from my head outline, my nose a little bit, just like a little bit up, because that way when I start doing this part, I know exactly where I'm gonna connect them. So now I'm gonna take my tape off. I'm gonna open this up, and remember, you're not drawing anything in the middle, you're just gonna draw on the top. I'm gonna place now this top part exactly in where I placed the other one. So it's about right here, because see, I'm lining up my nose, my headline, right there, and I'm gonna tape it back up. And now I'm gonna do the same thing right here on the top. So I'm gonna finish outlining the top of my head. And if you accidentally go down in here, that's okay, just erase it. Okay, so remember, we don't want to have anything. We're just drawing these top two portions right now. And try not to go too dark with your pencil, just because we're going to be going over all of this with a Sharpie and a pen. And it might not look totally like you, but that's okay. We're just going to go somewhat like you. Okay, so you can see pretty basic outline. So now when I close this up, it kind of comes together and looks like me. Okay, so from here what you can do is now take this drawing and actually have your photograph, and when it's closed, you can kind of go back and fix up any of these lines. Okay, just to make sure it looks as close to you as you can. Don't color, don't shade, don't do any of that, okay? And then I'll show you what to do next. Okay, so you guys can see I kind of went back and I touched up some areas on my face just by looking at the photo. I just kind of adjusted, added kind of some cheek dimples that I have. I made kind of refined my lips where those were. Does it look exactly like me? No, not totally, but that's okay. That's kind of why it's a caricature, little cartoon version. So now what you're going to do, you either want to take a thin Sharpie, don't use a thick one, or a pen. If you're going to use a Sharpie, make sure when you guys do this top part that goes over, you open this up all the way. Because if you don't, it's going to bleed into those two sections. If you want to, you can just kind of leave the whole thing open while you're doing this. But what you're going to do right now is just go over what you drew with Sharpie. Again, you're avoiding these two sections right now. So we're just going to go over this. And key here with eyes, if you guys want to make sure your eyes look like kind of cartoon style, don't fill this in all the way black. Leave a little room that kind of has this little white circle inside, and that makes it look a little more realistic. I like to outline it first to give myself a little area where I know it's going to be white, and then go around that with black. Okay, so if I close this up, ta-da! I have my lovely portrait. So then, to make it look really cool, as though you just did this all on your own first thing with Sharpie, take an eraser. Make sure it's a clean eraser, okay? So don't, make sure it doesn't have like any, if it has some of this smudge from a pencil, don't use that side, use something clean. Give it a little bit, whether you use a pen or a Sharpie, give it a second to dry, because if you do this right away, you could actually smear, even Sharpie smears. So just give it a second to dry, but then you're gonna go back and just gently, because if you go too hard, you may accidentally rip the paper, or you may smear the pen or Sharpie. You're going to erase your pencil lines. And it kind of makes this really cool cartoon image. Shake off the eraser dust. Ta-da! We have our image. So now from here, all that's left to do is open up. Now you can design whatever mood that you want to create in here, whether it's on whether you want to do two different moods for your bottom and the top, or make a whole one on the inside. Okay, so that again, start off with a pencil as you're sketching it through, and then when you're done, go back and you can outline with Sharpie, you can add color with marker, colored pencil, do whatever you like to do, but we're just remember to whatever you draw here, make sure it doesn't come out on those two sides, okay, because you want to keep this front side just like that, so that way when you open it, this is what it's going to reveal the mood.